Well, hello everybody. It is Friday, April 5th. Happy Friday to you. Get ready for the win tomorrow. I just got back shortly ago from my parenthesis. I don't know if you saw my shorts video, but they were able to take out 6.8 liters, which is the most. They said there was closer to 7 in there, but it was starting to hurt me. So they just stopped. So hopefully it doesn't start to gain back quickly. I need to be as empty as I can for my procedure on Monday, but that was quite the morning. I almost missed my appointment, missed my wake-up calls. I was sleeping. I'm still tired from the last week. So obviously I need to get some more rest this weekend. But today I wanted to take a few minutes and speak to you. I want to talk about the subject of why is everybody quitting alcohol. So the more and more I watch, the more I listen, and I hear things from people, and it makes sense, and it sounds like me. And what I did is I wrote down some things, some quotes from people that have gone on TV and given their testimony, like what they were doing and how they feel now, and it just really hits home. And I'm hoping we can save a life or two. Please share, comment, ask questions of other people on. I'm hoping to have I have some guest speakers I'm very excited to have come join us. But I just need a couple days to feel good, right? To do that. So that's still on my mind, but feel free. And I might ask you guys to leave examples for those of you who maybe have quit years ago or quit, and the differences. What are the differences that you see? Share those. That would be motivation for a lot of people. But I'm going to quote a lot of people on here. Some of these are just normal people like us, and actually I found some quotes, or I shouldn't call them quotes, short segments of people that you would recognize, some boxers, some television hosts, some people that have been in a lot of movies and that I didn't know had alcohol problems, and they talk about that, but I wrote down kind of what they said as well. And then I'm going to speak about why is everybody quitting alcohol, because I'm seeing that too. Please forgive me if I get calls. I'll ignore them. I'm trying to have a day of peace here. I have no other appointments. I just need some peace for a couple hours. So I'm going to put my phone on silent. Okay. So alcohol absolutely dominates society, right? Every street you walk down, every time you turn on the TV, every movie that you watch, you scroll social media, and what do you see? Alcohol, right? Alcohol. It's truly built into the fabric of our society, but there is a great shift of people that are starting to question their beliefs around this drug. They're really starting to ask themselves, what is alcohol really doing for me? And one of the most beautiful things that's happening right now that I'm seeing is the discussion is opening up. Some of the most influential thinkers in the world today are spreading new information out there around alcohol, okay? They're waking people up. They're telling people the truth about the drug. So here are some of the ideas and changes our worldview. And if you want information to stop drinking, there is coaching. if you go online, you can get help, okay? Help that you just go get sober and get clean. If we had to make a bad drug legal, the worst choice, alcohol is definitely the case, right? You might want to put down your drink to hear this, okay? No amount of alcohol is good for your overall health, even in what are considered relatively small amounts. Even the one glass, moderate drinking, just one drink a day could impact your brain. There's no safe amount of alcohol to drink, okay? It is one of the most destructive drugs to various parts of your body and different organs, okay? Systems, alcohol is actually considered a class 1 carcinogen, that's what it is, or cancer, spent so that the same time category as a benzene and tobacco smoke. Well, alcohol was the 7th greatest risk factor for death and disability. And if you look at the cost of alcohol across the world, it kills 2.8 million people every year, okay? That's almost half the amount of people who die from tobacco, and some studies estimate that about the same cancer-causing potential as 1 to 2 cigarettes. 50% of murders take place in an alcohol-fueled environment. Either the victim or the perpetrator or both is drunk. It's almost the sole cause of domestic abuse. It also is the only drug we know that actually makes people more aggressive, okay? Families in the United States doesn't have someone who's been damaged by alcohol. I mean, about 10% of people become addicted to it in one way or another, for more people than the abuse, yes. At least once in their life, yes. We did experience at showing that if you drink people and put them in a competitive environment, okay, you get them drunk where they could be aggressive and have them keep track of their aggressions, and they were actually conscious of it and became more aggressive, even rather than less so. Yeah, alcohol's bad news, and it can turn perfectly good people into quite impulsive and dim-witted monster. Alcohol affects the development of synapses and the brain. People who drink at an early age, heavy have shown to have significantly smaller brains, okay? And reduced cognitive abilities. Even in a little bit of alcohol causes damage in the brain. It disrupts something called white matter. White matter is the highway in your brain that transmits information and impulses, and even a little bit of alcohol, even a little bit, has shown to disrupt that white matter, okay? Alcohol is, it's a hell of a drug, okay? It's a hell of a drug, and it's shown to improve and to disrupt the white matter. Alcohol, it's a hell of a drug, okay? Yeah. overwhelmingly majority of people that consume alcohol, that's to help unwind or, celebrate the end of a day, or it's usually a mechanism to take you out of a less ideal place and bring you into a more relaxed place. And we've talked about this. In fact, most addiction does not begin with the search for getting all smashed, okay? Most addicts didn't wake up one day and go, I want to get really smashed tonight. They woke up one day and said, I want to feel normal. And it was a search for normality that led to an addiction doing the same thing. If you keep reproducing the same experience and feeling the same emotions, your biology begins to become hardwired. In a sense, it becomes programmed. It is just hardwired in. Okay, animals, to modulate their own I can't remember the word, is exactly what people have addictions through. Most people will not even think of them as addictions. You're just trying to fiddle with the knobs, right? Fiddle on the knobs of your brain, like, what is this game? And so I'm saying, hey, you're gonna fiddle with your knobs. We're all gonna be careful that the knobs that you're fidgeting with don't create a state of where you're constantly chasing something, so you don't feel good. And then once you get a physical addiction, now you're running from a low. You're not running towards a high. If you talk to a true alcoholic, a true drug addiction, very often that habit is continuing. It's continuing because they don't want to go off the carnivorous hole that's right behind them, and it's not that they're any longer chasing. Okay, that high. They're not chasing the high. It's a learned behavior, so most people don't just go to a bar and have a drink and suddenly they're addicted to alcohol. What's amazing to me is how the people who make alcohol get a free ride. I don't know how we got it in our heads to treat one like it's completely taboo, and the other we kind of shrug. I mean, it's crazy, right? It's like this is the drug that is causing so many problems for young people, particularly on campuses, and the schools are hand in glove with the manufacturers of it. Alcohol wasn't a thing, and now you've invented this drug that is going to make you like either really happy or really aggressive or really stupid. And we're gonna just sell it to the masses, people to be like, now, mate, give me your funky juice. Like, we don't want that sound terrible or nothing, but in one of those is socially acceptable to the addiction side of the bad size, and it really does fly under the radar. There's a lot of pressure on young people not to drink necessarily, but to find happiness, right, through going out and getting smashed, but it doesn't work for you. And if you keep waking up getting I don't know, seems to be having nearly as good time as most your friends, then you know, then think about it. If it doesn't have to be something you do, is what you do. Oh, this phone is going off. Hold on. Sorry about that. Um, so you might have friends. It doesn't have to be something you do. Is what all I'd say to, okay, people. It was the case that most people would think of, in the sense that my life was totally fine on paper. I had a job, a good job. Everyone knows you know I had an honest house, a car, that sort of mess. And it's kind of like walls were going in, and I tried to quit drinking a lot of times. Okay. I you know, I went through a bad marriage, probably lost some good figures in my life. And I was trying everything to drown the pain and the frustration and suffering of those losses, right? By overworking, over drinking, over smoking, cigarettes. It was 1 shot, 2 shots. What does 4 feel like? What does 8 feel like? And all of a sudden, I'm taking 12 shots of vodka, and on a work night by myself, starts off as a fun little thing, and then turns into a escape, and then all of a sudden you don't remember why you're out there doing stuff. And initially alcohol, maybe it saved me. It taught me how to be a social person. Like, I enjoyed going to the bars, and I enjoyed figuring out how to talk to people outside of work. It was this fuel that transformed me from this, navel-gazing, insecure woman into somebody who felt like I could comfort myself in a social setting or situation, I guess, as long as I was using alcohol. But very slowly over time, my life, the quality of my life just sort of declined and declined and declined. And I used to drink and take drinks to get away from the depression, because when I was drunk or high, then I wouldn't think about being depressed, or thought about being an HR manager, or I'm feeling great. I knew that my drinking was causing problems in my life across the board. I mean, like, I had less money. It was eating into my bank account. It was messing with some of my relationships, my kids. I would never feel good. The 3 days after I would go out on a bender, right? I would just be like a mess. It would get so bad that I got to the weight of, I can't remember, it was like 160 at one point. I'm not even built to be that heavy. It's very bad to have relationships when you're doing drugs. And drinking, for me, was personally, and you become closed off, unreceptive, insensitive, all the dreadful things that you've heard every other pop singer ever singing. At the end, I was alone. alienated from my friends. My family didn't want anything to do with me until I sorted this out, living in a shiny apartment with barely any furniture, maybe sleeping on a mattress on the floor. No, I didn't get that far, but some people have, and that can be very dark for a long, very period of time until you start to drink more and more, and then really it'll become hard to accept that you meant was you're an alcoholic, and you can just need to take a break. You just need to slow down. You'll say, I need to, I'm okay. I know what I mean. This isn't me. And I start to drink heavy, every day. And then now I am home and I just sit there and drink until I pass out on the couch. And I tell you, I drank every single night of my life. And I never thought I could live without it. Was more just that I lost everything I practically was able to hold down. Like, I couldn't even wait tables at a second shop for very long, okay? I haven't talked to my kids a lot during that period. They were angry, and I was a horrible human being around. And then finally, you just become an awful human being. Like, you're selfish, and it started off with this. It became then my important people in my life would look at me like, Jesus Christ, look at the size. I started to, so I left. I need a drink here, hold on. I haven't had any caffeine today. What was I gonna do here? Okay, so the quickest way of forgetting about the fact that I could have been being watched drinking was to get very drunk. And then as you get very drunk, you become aware that, people are watching more now because I'm getting very drunk. So I should probably drink more to ignore the more, and it just went from bad to worse. I'd hit the drink heavily on a daily basis. I was out all night, not really partying up, but hanging out. I always did go home, but I didn't care about other things. I didn't care about living. I just wanted to die because I was negative and dark, and I wanted to do bad things, and I wanted to hang out in the neighborhood or something like that alone, but I'd rather hang out alone and kill myself, basically, is what I was doing. Someone said that he wanted to kill everything. He wanted to, kill him too. Alcohol is actually a really clever drug if you think about it. Alcohol is a very prominent drug. It gets into the brain and it changes all the good neurotransmitters that you want to change, a bit of endorphins, but as serotonin, but gradually it sorts out, it eats worms, its way in. Eventually it kind of like takes over you. Getting into situations themselves, people drink and they don't even understand, just suddenly they're drinking, they got they got there, they don't know how, even enjoy it very much, but they stop it and become compulsion from the first time. So someone said the first time that I drank alcohol, it was a warm feeling that I got, like losing my inhibition feelings, and I wanted another one. And then after that, wanted with 6, I was like wondering what 8 was like. 8 was fun. 8 to 10, like, so there's an increase in dopamine and an increase in serotonin. So the kind of increase in well-being and an increase in mood very soon after. And actually it triggers that by the increase in a long and slow function in dopamine and serotonin and related molecules. It's getting a big blip of feel good, okay, followed by a long, slow arc of feeling not that great, which is why typically people will drink again and again across the night. And many people will make the mistake of then going and pursuing the dopamine, evoking the dopamine releasing activity or substance again, right? Thinking mistakenly that it's going to bring up the baseline. It's going to give them that peak again. And only does it not give them that peak, their baseline gets lower and lower because they're depleting dopamine more and more. And the more you know, you might say, well, why do people drink too much? If it's like you like alcohol, that's a stupid question. Yeah, right. It's like, why do people drink too much? Well, because it's great. But how, when the drink wears off, it only leaves you with a bad hangover and feeling even more depressed for someone who's suffering with mental health. Or the worst thing that we can do to escape it is drugs or alcohol. But yeah, the most common approach, because people we don't know, it makes you extroverted and enthusiastic while you're on the ascending limb of the blood alcohol curve, which is why you have to keep drinking once you start, because if you plateau, that goes away. To keep drinking, okay, so that's one thing. It makes you more enthusiastic, more full of positive emotion. And the second thing it does is it reduces anxiety. And so if you are more bit socially anxious and you also have that positive response to alcohol, which everyone doesn't have, by the way, then it's a great drug. But the problem is, it's a great drug for the moment, right? Right? There's consequences. So someone said it was like the feeling of, oh my God, this is what I've been searching for my whole life, and so much funnier than I and cooler, and people like me. That's all. That's what someone said, and I believe it. I don't think people understand how once you get beyond 1, 2 drinks, like how harmful it is on your liver. Okay. A doctor wrote that he's constantly amazed at how much people drink when there's no apparent reason for it, right? You can always come up with great reasons of a drink. So I think that that to me it is an asymmetrical and unnecessarily risk, meaning the pleasure that they're getting from that, those 4 shitty Budweisers that they have isn't isn't worth the potential downside. It's causing in the long run, which says nothing by the way of how often I drink. People do get behind the wheel of their car when they've had a drink in them. And if there's one thing that I've seen in the simulator, it's how even one drink compromises your ability when it matters. Alcohol, ethanol, which is alcohol we drink, is toxic. Its toxicity is nonlinear, so its toxicity kind of goes like a meaning at a low level, and it's just a little bit of an increase, but the more you drink, the more it becomes toxic. But there is no dose of ethanol that is helpful, and I've read it is the poison. It is the poison that leads to the effect of being inebriated or drug. I think most people don't realize that being a drunk is actually a poison-induced disruption, right? Actually, a poison-induced neutral circuits. And thinking about the effects of alcohol and what it's going to the body, what it's doing in all cases, that consumed into the gut and the liver immediately starts converting alcohol to acetal, aldol to acetate, and some amount of acetal, okay, are making it into the brain. Okay, and the blood-brain barrier, most things, thankfully can't pass through, but brain barriers, but alcohol, but it's water and it's fat soluble. So cruises right across the fence into the middle environment of the brain, so it goes in every nook and cranny in your brain, okay? And it has lots of influences. So there it has a lot of influences, slows down the excitatory signals and speeds up the inhibitory signals. There's a slight suppression in the activity of neurons and prefrontal cortex, that's involved in thinking and planning, and perhaps above all, in suspension of impulsive behavior. And as you shut down the prefrontal cortex, that garbage suppresses and impulses starts to release, so people say things that they want to say without so much forethought maybe about what they're saying, or they may do things that they want to do without really thinking it through quite as much as they might not even remember thinking it through at all, okay? Of the more important things to know about the effect of alcohol in the brain area, though, that are involved in flexible behavior, sort of considering different options, like I could do, or I could do these brain things or areas basically shut down. Probably the most common deterrent that alcohol has to the brain is the fact that alcohol is a depressant to the central nervous system, so it impairs your judgment, right? We all know that. It impairs your reflexes and your ability to think through, and top-down inhibitions is diminished. That is a habitual behavior and impulsive behavior, and it starts to increase. This is true in the short term, so after people have 1, 2, 3, 4 drinks, but it's also true that the more often that people drink, there are changes in the very circuits that underlie habitual and impulsive behavior. For the person that drinks every day, Thursday night, or goes out only on like Saturdays, but every Saturday, there's evidence that I've read that there are chances in the neural circuits of the brain that control habitual behavior and impulsive behavior, and they are modified and strengthened in ways that make those people more habitual and more impulsive, okay? Outside the times, and like in which they're drinking, and when they drink impulsive and habitual behavior tends to increase even further, okay? I can't get more lemon water. So drinking, habitual behavior tends to, it makes it go even further. Where was I? I gotta remember where I left off here. You see your friends drinking. You smell it. You see a movie where someone's drinking red wine or whatever, and then you start physically craving it. Now, you can't get it off your mind, and you're uncomfortable in your skin. So you say to yourself, well, I've been sober for 2 months. I don't have a problem, and you have a drink. That's what this little trickster in your brain tells you. You're fine. You're fine. You've been sober for 2 months. You don't have an alcohol problem. And then that one turns into you coming home with a bottle 2 nights later, and that comes into you opening up your wine cellar again. That's what, has happened to people. And then you're drinking heavier than you probably did before, to be honest. Because if maybe you had a crummy childhood, or because you were suffering from a personal trauma, or you were drinking because you're physically addicted to it, alcohol. So you pick up the first drink, you'd like the feeling, you want another drink. And then you'd like the feeling, and then it was past drunk, too drunk to remember addiction, right? Is really constantly choosing a short-term reward to the expense of long-term growth. And I couldn't stop. I mean, it was screwing me up. I know it. I knew it then, and I tell myself, I know that maybe it's different this time. I'm like, I'm gonna have 1 or 2, and then go, well, 2 is good, and then 4 more, be like, right, and something shifts in your head, and you're in it, you're in there now. No way you can look outside yourself and say, oh, that's the hallmark of alcohol. I can look back now, though, and say, wow, those were clear signs. But of course, you don't see them yourself. It went slowly from being a work hard, play hard, have a drink, to 2 drinks, to 3 drinks, to then habit, to then drink daily, to then 24/7 habit, to every weekend habit, getting lost in myself, habit. The addiction elevator is always going down. It only moves in one direction. The best case scenario is that a person's life stays the same, but in almost every case I've seen, it continues to decline. Sometimes if you don't watch that kind of habit, you're building, they become lifestyles, and not even lifestyle leads to roads of riches and benefits and incentives and a great life. Some roads lead to death. They lead to struggle, anxiety, depression, and all of the opposite things that somebody wants for their life. And I was there before. I knew it. I was digging myself a hole. And everybody I looked at, it was so dark. And I lost myself. I spiraled into a sense of no self-worth. Hit rock bottom. Okay? Hit rock bottom. Couldn't work anymore. Really tough to maintain relationships with people. I never got obliterated where I was obnoxiously drunk, but drama probably, I assume. And they say hurting people hurts people. I was hurting inside and I was hurting others and didn't even know. If you do stupid when you're drunk, you're hurting yourself. You compromise your health. It's really hard, and people around you tend to screw it up. Your life, like with your kids, are talking to you and tells you, I ain't been, they're scared, okay, that I'm gonna die. And they may, to please stop drinking. Can you please stop smoking? Can you please get back to the mommy or mom that I know you all, you bust your ass. You were cool up until the moment. If I go out and watch people drinking, it makes everybody stupid now and fuzzy-minded. And the problem is when you're drinking and you think you're cool, but you have those same delusions that Homer Simpson's friend Barney has when he's drinking. He kind of, elegant and that sophisticated comedian, and it just makes everybody stupid, and what's better isn't being straight, and nothing makes mistakes in like this whole prohibition. That's prohibition since what an adventure, man. You need to get out there, have something to do, something worth waking up for, and you need that's the substitute for the addiction. And we've been brainwashed by alcohol, and industries have brainwashed us to believe that quitting is really hard. It's part of the pop propaganda. They're the ones pushing in message, which seems like, why would they tell people it's hard? But then they're doing that because it's, oh, another call, hold on. Sorry about this, folks. Okay, pushing would tell people they're doing that because if it's hard, you won't quit. Quit the thing. I ask, people ask, is this our alcohol adversely affecting any part of you your life that can mean anything from your relationship to working. Okay. Out in the morning, is it adversely affecting any part of your life? If the answer is yes, then you need to address it. If I were to sit here and I would just were to punch you and randomly punch you, and I would stand and let you beat the piss out of me, like, I would hope not, but in the life we leave behind the best piss out of us, and we make circumstances even worse by when a negative event happens. We get frustrated, or we feel pity. We pity for ourselves, or we turn to quick fixes like drugs and alcohol, and it makes our situation worse. So when you unpack that layer and you give that tough love of saying, you know, what, like, you need to change. Look at yourself in the mirror and stop being a victim, stop blaming other people, and take ownership for yourself, and stop waiting for other people to fix your life. You can't get sober for somebody else. I can't get sober for my spouse or my kids, or I'm getting sober because if I don't, my boss is gonna fire me. None of that works. Okay. For me, none of that works, okay? And I wanted to get sober because I said I deserve more. I deserve more out of life. I have to try it in a different way, and I have to be willing to just commit to it. If you're honest with yourself and you have some degree of self-awareness and understand what you're doing, that you do care about, I think choices become a lot clearer. There's way more clarity about how to live your life, and in the micro, which is really what we're talking about, these just many choices throughout the day. Does it support who you want to be in the world, or does it not? And there's very little gray, actually, in the gray area. The gray are excused, in my view. And we can rationalize and make stuff up all day long, right? To make ourselves feel better. But when you can step back from all of that and look at it really, taking yourself kind of out of the equation and look at it from a very objective standpoint, I think choice the alcohol, because very clearly so, in order, to change something, to arrive with a new vision of your future, if you wanted to arrive at a new goal or a new vision of your future, you'd have to change something about yourself, okay, in order to get there. And you'd have to change the way you think, the way you act, the way you feel. Most people then have a vision of the future, but they give up on that vision, because in order for them to arrive at that vision, they have to do something. They have to think differently. They have to act differently. They have to feel differently. And it's much easier to make the same choice every single day. And the hardest part about change is not making the same choice as you did the day before. And the moment you decide to make a different choice, you're going to feel uncomfortable because you're stepping from the known into the unknown. So some people could rather cling to their self-pity than take a chance. And self-pity that possibly they'd rather tell the story of their past instead of telling the story of their future. They'd rather believe in their past, and instead of believing in their future. So what really helped me was when my friend took a look at me in my face and said, you know, you can either be a man or be a girl or something like that. And I really defined my circumstances were defined the choices and making a response to that circumstance. You can, you know a man up and down what you can tell anybody up and down what to do, right? And what to be. Go cry in a corner, blame everybody for your problems, and say woe is to me, and come from where I grew up or isn't cool. I was like, you know what? I'll take the opportunity of being a woman. And if you don't do this, you're probably going to die early, okay? The way I realized I had to quit and the Band-Aid, I had to pull the Band-Aid, and I had to do the hard thing once. And I went through that process. My life improved across the board. I had really, really believed in myself, even though I internally shouldn't have gotten right. The odds were stacked against me. But I kept believing it. And I knew that if I could just reach out every day, that I had faith that things would get better. And once I got my health and I got my own mind and I got spirit and started to be proud of myself, okay, when I looked at myself and my kids were looking at me and they would say, you know, that you could only hear once. You did what you needed to do and put in the work you needed to put in so that it shows. We're either forced to change or we choose to change. Every day you have a choice. Life's a reflection of the daily choices that we make in our lives. You choose the books, you choose the personal development, you may choose the leadership and create to work on something, to be an entrepreneur holding himself of herself or herself to higher standards, right? To go above and beyond and to be able to experience the delayed gratification, that one route, that one choice every day? Or is it the drink 2 drinks, 3 drinks? Selfish? My goals, my dreams, my desires, you know, but they're unclear. So really all it is filling a void, a gap in the heart, and escaping into something that maybe does not lead to any of those things. I'm tired. But so you can never give up on a lower taste unless you had a higher taste. And so there has to be a switch there, right? To replace the fact that you found an alternative, right? Think that's half of us trying to take something out of our lives, and then you're just trying to fill it, and you have to go back to what you had before because you're not finding replacement. The second thing you say, which I love from hearing from people, was that having the people, someone who's 1 year ahead of someone, who's 10 years ahead of someone, who's 20 years ahead, who's gone through this process, and they're open and honest and vulnerable about, you know, what I did have a weak moment, or know that was really tough for me. And I think having those communities where you can talk about these things and make a massive difference, where it makes a massive difference. What am I trying to say? Sorry, my phone rang. Communities where, okay, where I left off. Okay. All right, so the funny thing is, if you're trying to stop drinking, you need something better than alcohol, and alcohol is pretty good, okay? We said that earlier. So you need to find something a lot better, man. And it is then esteemable. People do esteemable things. It's like, yeah, well, you want what you want to figure out something that you're doing with your life that's worth not getting drunk and screwing up. That's exactly what happened to me. It was exactly that conversation with myself. And initially I decided months off, and I just never went back. And there's times where, like a woman, I could never be a sober person, you know, but because I'm afraid of, you know, I can't communicate with people, or I'm afraid, you know, I stand around in a circle with a bunch of people who are having a beer and in my hand, you know, or like all these crutches, you know, I can't. And then I remember when I got to my 90th day sober, and I was just like, holy shit, man. It was like the first time I'd ever done something like that for myself, you know? And it just, man, it just felt unprecedented. And you can only change your life if you want to change it. And I left, and I left somewhere early once, and everybody was going home, and I got back home, and I didn't say anything to anybody, and I went upstairs to my room, and I sat there, and I got on my knees, and I was praying and begging God to help me. After praying for about 10 minutes, I got up, and I felt the way to the world was, or the weight of the world was lifted up my shoulders for the first time to make comeback of something. And how long, you know, I was sober for, and now it's going on many, many, many more months. It freaking saved my life, saved my family. Working through this stuff, so very grateful for my spouse. He's the one that didn't ask me for this. He'd walk through fire with me, and he'd walk out of it to me together, stronger, way stronger than we ever would have been before. And I haven't drank or looked at a drink since last September. And that's what I think everybody else said is so bad. I'm not this, it's not my, you know, it's not my 100th day, but 900th day or 500th day, but my first holidays not drinking. I'm so thankful that this is happening in my relationship with my friends and my family. And with my friends and family, everybody around me are so good and have listened for so many years now. I wanted to do anything to destroy. I wouldn't want to do anything to destroy that. I was running to things to avoid, okay? Tough feelings, painful feelings. I just didn't know how to deal with them. And looking for anything, I found that to use that for an escape, to escape to those kinds of, I guess, difficult feelings. I didn't want to be at the point. I don't want to be at that point or have to run from anything. I want to sit still and I want to feel and I want to get through this rough night or day. And I found in doing so, you just come out of the other side with a more profound understanding of yourself, a greater gratefulness for those in your life, the birds and the trees and everything else.